Welcome back to my designs. I'm James and I have bought a new tool which is a Viceroy TD6 or TD something. Let's get started. Okay, so I have been a little bit radio silent because I've been working on many things such as installing a log burner ready for winter and finishing off some furniture that I haven't recorded, and as well as buying a new wood lathe which is a Viceroy TDS6, and it is effectively a short bed bowl dedicated lathe, kind of. Now I bought it as a bit of a basket case. I've not painted this. I've done not a lot to the aesthetics of the machine, and I bought this off an old boy fairly local to me, and I went for this instead of a Union Graduate, which I've been looking for a good long while, and I'm really glad that I did. And I'll get into the reasons to why, but we'll start off with this video is going to be a bit more of a buyer's guide and what I've done to this to get it what I would class as usable. So I'm going to start off as doing this video as a bit like a buyer's guide. So to start off, Viceroy and Boxford have the same spindle thread sizes, which is dedicated to these. Now these are quite an uncommon lathe. The metalworking lathes are quite common for Boxford and Viceroy, so there's sold quite a few of these. But I did a lot of research into these, or at least I thought I did, and they have a very, very special thread, which is 1.5 inches, so it's very, very big, by 8 TPI, which is a bit of a nightmare to actually get hold of. So if you are looking at one of these, make sure it either comes with a chuck or you're comfortable with doing what I've had to do. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer to show you. Okay, so let's talk very, very quickly about chucks. Okay, so this is the chuck that you're probably more common to come across, which is your typical wood turning 4-jaw scroll wood turning chuck. Okay, so the back plate is built into the actual chuck itself, and my lathe is my other Meteor lathe that I've done a few videos on, is a 1 inch by 8 TPI, which looks a little bit like that, male and female, etc, etc. So I think because Viceroy and Boxford etc were more metal turning chucks, I thought let's make a standard spindle with a standard spindle fitting, which is this size here, which is 1.5 inches by 8 TPI. You cannot buy a chuck off the shelf easily for this, which is very, very misconcepted, which is the Robert Sorby Patriot chucks have a spindle thread size of 38mm by 3 TPI, which in engineering terms is a gnat's knacker to be very close to this size. But it's completely different and it doesn't really fit. So the guy I bought this off, I believe, is what he used on this chuck, which has knackered a little bit of the first starting threads to the spindle. So I believe years and years ago, Axminster Tools used to actually supply or offer a chuck with this size on into the back of their chuck system. They no longer offered it. I rang up, I asked them and they wouldn't do it. The same with the Robert Sorby. Now, nowhere on the internet does it actually tell you the thread size of the Patriot chuck. So I bought one because there's a few forums somewhere that said, oh yeah, they're actually 1.5 inches by 8 TPI. This is wrong. Don't do it. Here's a picture of me actually bought one second hand to then try and fit. I then rang up Robert Sorby and said, I've got this lathe and this is what we've got. And he went, oh no, you need an adapter. Okay, so I thought, right, so you can buy an adapter for 1.5 inches by 8 TPI from Rutland's. However, if you're using this lathe in this setup and you have a TDS6, the space is very limited. So I can put this onto here and it will fit, and then I can put on my standard wood turning chuck. Now the problem with this is we've lost a lot of space. So what I did, I've gone through quite a saga here, and if you're on Instagram you'll know about this. I've shortened this down on my Myford lathe, and I've shortened down the back plate onto here. So So I'm going to put these to one side, but we'll be revisiting these back in a short while. But I had to get rid of this, effectively. This adapter has become useless. Is because it kind of killed the actual space that I've got. The length of the bed kind of killed it. So let's talk the chuck that I managed to get for this. So as I said, the usual wood turning chuck is a little bit easy to show you on this. There's a scroll at the back, and the threads of the chuck is actually built into the back. It's built into the body of the chuck. It's machined out to your desired length. The Patriot system chuck is basically a really large hole, and you buy the inserts to then fit into your lathe. Okay, so this is a Versa chuck, which is the only way, if you buy one of these machines and not be able to find an original one and you want a dedicated wood turning chuck, is the only way that you're going to be able to find a chuck. I'll argue this until I'm blue in the face. I've done a lot of research on this, and again, I'm not teaching you suck eggs. This is just my advice to anybody looking at one of these machines. So the different styles, this is a dedicated wood turning chuck. This is what's called a Pratt Bernard chuck style. So it's got a back plate, a dedicated back plate, and then it's got a wood turning chuck on the back that's then you bolt into the back of the body of the chuck, which is more like this. Which is this is a metalworking lathe, and the Bernard style, or Pratt Bernard style, is a back plate chuck that goes onto the spindle, like this. So if you buy a Versa chuck, they have the same kind of pattern, and how they do it is they have the scroll inside here. These are called the sliders, so you have to buy the correct sliders for your jaws. Now these jaws are, I believe, Sorby style or Patriot style. So I bought these with my other chuck, and then you have to get the back plate. Now the back plate is a boxwood back plate, and you have to buy this from RDG Tools. I'll supply all the details within the description. You buy the Versa chuck, but you have to buy the jaws from elsewhere. But you buy the Versa chuck with the sliders. And then you have to machine the back plate down for the Viceroy spindle to then fit this up and then clock it in with the DTI, and then it actually fits. So it is worth mentioning that I have bought 3 chucks for this, that none of which have fit. So I tried the Sorby, I tried Axminster. I didn't buy that because a lot of these companies that you actually go to, including Rutland's, will say that they offer the chuck with that package, but in the small print it comes with an adapter, which again kills the actual usable space that you've got on your lathe. So just be careful when you're buying one of these machines without a chuck that's probably an old Axminster one or an old Robert Sorby one. The only way that I've managed to do this, again, I've had to use, I'm lucky I've got a metalworking lathe, so I can machine back and then fit up the back places here. Versa chuck do offer a blank back plate that you can put onto their chucks, and then you can machine your own thread into that, which I was one step away from doing. But luckily the back plate can be bought from RDG, and it does line up, but you have to modify the actual back plate fitment to the chuck body. That is the chuck side. So the next, what I would say is a bit of a pain, is the actual taper of these machines. So the tailstock is a Morse taper 3, and the headstock is a Morse taper 3 as well, which is fine for engineering world, but what I kind of found is that for wood turning stuff is a bit of a pain. So you might need to buy an adapter, which is just a bit of a pain. It's just everything's a little bit uncommon with it. The only place that I could find like a drive centre was from Axminster Tools, which was about 18 quid for the 4-prong drive. And then this I've just bought off eBay. It did come with one, but it's a bit knackered, so just something to bear in mind. It's a Morse taper 3. A lot of new wood lathes that you can get are either Morse taper 1 or Morse taper 3, which look like these. So this is a Morse taper 1 machine, which uses this, and then the Viceroy is a Morse taper 3, which is really, really big. So this is Morse taper 1, my Myford lathe is a Morse taper 2, and the new lathe is Morse taper 3. So I've had to buy a lot of tooling to kind of cross over, which is fine. It keeps it kind of clean. And the next thing that I've done to this lathe is completely optional, but I've wanted to put this on wheels. So it makes an absolute mess when you're turning like a 14, 16-inch bowl on this. So I want to make it kind of come outside, and I would turn outside. So I can just lift this up, move this round, and then I can support the feet on here. I can adjust it to the ground that it's going on. And this is a copy of the table saw. So I bought this with the table saw, and I've just made the adapter to fit up on here. You can do this with one hand, which is quite nice. And then these on the base here, it's just some angle line that's welded together to make a base and some plywood. And then I've actually tacked the body of this to the base to make it really, really nice and solid. And these are just some M20 connecting nuts. I've just welded down a bead to here, and it's got a little locking nut when you've found up your right level. And these are just some casters that I've bolted onto the back. Just standard from Screwfix, but they're more than adequate to take the weight. So I'm a little bit different to why I buy vintage machines and the reasonings behind why I purchased said model. So as I said, I wanted a Union Graduate for a long, long time, and the Viceroy is a lot more in common. Anything for a Union Graduate you can kind of get hold of nice and easily, whereas these, as I've mentioned and explained, they're a little bit more tricky. So I went for this because it's got a slightly bigger capacity than the Union Graduate. It's a bit more compact. The body and the actual shell of this is made out of steel and not cast. The important bits are cast: the table, the headstock, and the column and the base plate is all made out of cast iron, but the body is steel, so I can modify this and put in different motors and modifications, and it's very easy to get to. I'll bring in a bit more closer now, which is the control box that I've installed in this and the VFD drive. Now I'm going to mention that it's not finished yet. The paint on this looks like it's been done with a fence brush. It's pretty horrific. Just ignore that and get through it. I've still got a lot of things to take off and paint, but to be honest, it's nice weather. I'm enjoying using it. So come winter, when it's cold outside and I can't really use it as much, then I'll do more of the aesthetic stuff. So this is on here was to make a bit more of a panel that you can get to the inside. There was a lot of holes in this and a lot of messing, so I decided to cut it out and then make a service panel, which is just some 3mm steel, and I've got these rubber plates. I need to bolt this in correctly, but because I'm running a much larger motor now, I wanted it was getting a bit hot, I thought, so inside the cabinet, so I've put in a little vent, and then that's going to be bolted onto the side there. But for now, I've not quite finished that yet, but it'll be done at some point in the future. Okay, I'm going to do this with my hand because I can't get the tripod down here. So this is what I have installed, which is a 2 horsepower motor on here, and I bought this as a kit from eBay. I'm no expert, but I bought this as a little bit of a kit for me to actually just for ease of use. So I've put a board at the back there, I've attached the VFD, and I've replaced all the belting to Nutlink, and I'll explain why in a little minute. But it's still got the original tensioner on here. This has all been adjusted and then moved, and we took the whole body off of this to then put in the motor mount. Now the motor is as big as I physically could get inside this cabinet, and I try and avoid at all costs drilling additional holes inside of a cabinet of an original machine. So I've made an adapter for the motor mount here. So the motor that was originally in this was one of the square Hoover Scottish made motors, and it fit on this plate, and it had a 3-step adjustable pulley. I'll put some pictures up now. But because I've put the size in, and to get the VFD in comfortably, we've had to really kind of shoehorn this in here, and it's now got the singular size pulley. Okay, so let's talk the belting. I'll just mention that. I'll just mention this really quickly. So I believe this is the original belt, which is kind of like a laminated, it's like a canvasy kind of material. And it's the same stuff as what you'd buy as a normal belt. It's an A series belt, which is the size, so you can get A, B, C, D, which are all larger. The A is the smaller. You can buy smaller than this, which is 10mm. This is 13mm, 1/2 inch. This is going to be 3/8. and this is what I used into the machine. So this was a direct swap over of the machine, and this is Nutlink, this is Brammer. The problem with Brammer is when it gets warm, when it gets hot, it slips, and because it's original, I think it's lost a lot of its, you know, it's probably 60, maybe 60-year-old, this, and I don't actually know how to take this apart. It's that old. It is very, very stiff, and I couldn't really get on with it. Now this stuff, these keys up here need some pliers. These rotate, and then you can take these off here and you can adjust the belt. Now what is worth mentioning, it's not so much of a disaster on this, but this is a one-directional belt, which I didn't really know, but this is only designed to go in one way. It's not designed to be put in reverse, although this machine can be put in reverse. Just something to bear in mind, that this is the old stuff, and this is roughly around £30 a metre. So, and to replace all this, you're going to need around about 3-4 metres to replace all of this, probably more like 3. But it's A size, 1/2 inch, 13mm. Again, you can buy the smaller stuff and the larger stuff, and it all works exactly the same. You don't really need a special tool, although it does come with one. They just twist round and then you pop it off. But you do have to allow it to stretch and then re-tighten up everything. So make sure that all the parts and components are loosened off, and then come back the next day and then tighten everything back up again. But I've done it once, I've not had to do it again. Okay, so on to just rewiring and the complexity of everything. It was very easy. As I say, I didn't buy this stuff off the shelf. I bought this as a kit from eBay. I messaged the guy because I wanted a 2-horse and not a 1-horsepower machine, and the motor and everything else on here. The motor, the kit, the VFD, and the cables. You need more cable because he supplies you with nothing. I think it was about 340 quid with delivery, which was a lot of money, but it makes the lathe what it is. Just to point out, this was I got this really clean and polished because it looked like this when I bought it, and then as soon as we've done some green wood turning, it's gone all like this surface sappy colour. So I'm not going to bother because this is what it's going to end up like anyway. So I've tried oiling it and that type of thing, and it just doesn't really work. So it was all cleaned up, it was all pretty, and then we've done some turning now, and it's kind of got some surface pitting on here. So when you're putting anything in a truck, you don't want to have anything, you know, loose on here, just in case anything flies out or breaks. It does happen. But we've got the VFD's just kicked in now, and then you adjust the speed for it to spin. Now, very, very quickly, I don't really plan on using this probably for any wood turning. It's just not necessary. I'm going to get rid of one of my other machines and use this as a linisher. Now, if your machine doesn't come with anything on the back here, this spindle is different to the front spindle, so just bear that in mind, because you won't be able to get anything off the shelf for this. You'll have to make it yourself. Just making an assumption here, but I can't find anything. That's a special thread. It's backwards, weird and funky. But anyway, the speed control. So this is, obviously depends on what belts and pulleys that you put on this, or the size of the pulleys, but this will go very, very quickly. And it's extremely torquey as well, which is what I really like. So I can turn it, you know, fairly slow. I'm not. It's not a swinging dick competition here. I can turn very, very slowly, and it's got enough horsepower. So originally this had 1. I doubled it up to 2, and it's made a great world of difference. Again, it came with these. These have just been adapted and bodged over time, and I have also modified this because I like these quick release levers. So this is M10. I believe what was in there previously was 3/8, so I've just opened this out to a metric M10 pitch thread here, and these just work really, really well. So what you have got as well, you'll notice that this is actually running in reverse because the motor's rotation has been pointed this way. A lot of metal lathes are the other way, but this has also got a forward and reverse. With a soft start function. which is nice. But the truck's been on and off, so I'm not going to keep running it very quick. But you get the idea. Just one more thing as well. So the actual back plates, your face plates that you get for this have got to be the same. So what I've done is I have bought a few of these back plates for the Bernard style chuck, and I just use these as face plates when I'm starting to wood turn a bowl. Just something to bear in mind. So if you have got one of these, buy a Boxwood back plate, and they do actually fit and work perfectly. And they're nice, chunky and big steel, but you need to use big heavy duty 6mm screws onto here, and they just go in there quite nicely. Oh, but when you do get them, I should mention that you have to turn down the recess that's on the back plates here to then take off the back. Now you could put this in the lathe and then use an angle grinder just to take off the lip, but I just put it in the metal lathe. Now there's not a lot, really much more on the machine itself that I can really think that I can discuss with you. Just to mention the actual tool rests themselves. They come with the older style cast ones. Now some people like this style. I personally don't. Nothing wrong with it. I'm used to the Sorby style quick release ones. I make them myself. And these ones, I know I'm going to use this size, so I'll just weld these up myself just to get me going. And it's 25mm or 1 inch. Now you won't kind of have any troubles finding this because it's still quite common. It's 25mm, but I've just welded up some sizes that I use, including a little scraper rest just on the back here that I can use for scraping. This is just a bit of scrap that I've used. But it makes life quite easy. Another job that I've got to do is change these. So what's quite unique about this machine is it uses a Dovetail system, which is to get your tool rest on the back here. There's a pivot point that's at the center, which is just down there. And then it uses the leverage, the taper onto here into the dovetail to then tighten up and then screw down, which you can just see just around about there. So it'll tighten up, you get the idea. So it loosens off from the top, like so, and then you can lift that up and move it round. And it just bolts into the top, and it's got a stop here so you can't, which is quite nice. It's the same with the tailstock as well. I don't like this personally. This is the most unergonomic part about the machine, which is just it's simple, it works, and I do get used to it. I just need to remake these. This is what it came with that the guy had been using. So why did I go for this? Again, I could modify it, I could use it, and it is proper, English engineering. You can't go wrong. I love the quality, I love the look, I love what I can do with it, and it kind of fits me really well. So again, I wanted a union graduate, but they are very, very popular. These are a little bit more of a lesser known. I wouldn't say they're unknown, but they're more lesser known, and there's probably not that many out here. For those that are interested, I paid £500 for this, and I've probably spent that as a time again. On the parts and the chucks and the the VFD and that type of thing, and the belts. So I'm probably about £1,000 into this now. I don't like talking money, but I know that it's going to be a question that I'll get, and I've probably not a lot more to spend on it now. Maybe repaint it some point in the future, and anything else I can kind of make. So again, that's another machine that was going to end up in the scrap pile. I've made quite a few bowls here, lots of different just rough turning. I've made a funnel as well, which I've now joined the funnel club, which is quite nice. So that was a lot of fun. I've done some big stuff as well, so that's quite a big weighty bowl in there. So yeah, this is not going to be like a boring wood turning video of me just talking about riding the bevel and all this type of thing. Very, very boring. This is me kind of what I've learned. It's not what you should do with if you do buy a Viceroy lathe. But if you do see one, just bear in mind that these are not kind of off-the-shelf type of lathe. So you're going to have to buy some things, modify some things and get it working. But I've got mine working pretty well now. So I'll do some more videos if it's wanted. I just don't want to get into the whole I'm a woodworking channel now and watch me turn a bowl. I just find it a bit boring for the type of content that I want to be doing. I've not gone through all the rigmarole of me actually recording this and going through it. I've done a lot of that type of stuff of rebuilding a lathe on my Meteor wood lathe that I've done a series of. It's all the very similar things. Wood lathes are very, very simple. It's a motor with a headstock that spins. It's a spinny thing. It's not too complicated. If you want any help or advice, just leave a comment. And yeah, if you do want to see some content on it, of me actually doing some big stuff, I do a lot on Instagram, and I'll put up some photos of me doing it and that type of thing. So I hope it helps. Again, it's kind of like a semi-buyer's guide, but it's what I've done. It's a what happened type video and the things that I have learned. So just be careful and be mindful when they say that it comes with the correct size chuck, because more often than not, it comes with the really annoying adapter, which you lose a lot of space for. The VFD, it's still very new. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's my first VFD conversion, I think. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's my first VFD conversion. I absolutely love it. It's got amazing horsepower, and I can turn off quite a bit of material. I went old. I could have spent £1,000 on a new shiny lathe. But you'll know in my workshop there's quite a lot of vintage machines, and it's just what I like. So just something to bear in mind. Of which the machine I'm going to be selling as well, I'll just mention it very, very quickly, is my Viceroy. Another Viceroy machine is a combi machine, which is a belt and linisher machine. I might be selling that. I don't really know yet if I can squeeze it in here. I don't really want to get rid of it. But if you are interested, then message me on Instagram or leave a comment or something like that. Just don't be surprised if I don't reply, because I'm terrible at that type of thing. I'm going to stop talking, but as always, thank you for watching. Sorry I've been a bit radio silent. I will start doing more videos again, but I've been doing work and it's been hot, and I've been doing boring things, and I've been working on another channel, which I'll do a workshop talk at some point. Thanks for watching. We'll see you sometime.